On the call with us today, we're pleased to have a couple of representatives from IBM, Charlotte Locke and Paul Santa, both from IBM Business Analytics Product Marketing. And Charlotte will be one of our presenters today. Along with IBM, there's those of us from Clear Insight. On the line is Susan Malik, President of Clear Insight, myself, Ian Margerison, responsible for business development, and Kit Chan is our VP of Professional Services, and he's on the line as well, in addition, of course, to all of you who have joined us for this presentation. Some of you may not be familiar with who we are. Clear Insight, we are an IBM business partner, and we're focused on supporting the Office of Finance with software, consulting, service support, and training. And in doing those solutions for our clients, we leverage IBM Clarity 7. We're strong supporters of that product in the marketplace. Of course, TM1, Cognis TM1, that we're going to be talking about today, is one of our key focuses, as well as IBM Cognis FSR, which is financial statement and reporting solutions for the Office of Finance, and then as well the other Cognis suites of business intelligence and business analytics solutions. We do support clients across North America and internationally. So our agenda for today, first we're going to review the recap on the key points from the 3 steps of better budgeting primer that led up to this webinar. And hopefully many of you had that. We'll touch on that in a minute. And then we're going to provide some powerful insights into the new normal of rolling forecasts. We are then going to turn it over to Charlotte, who will give us an overview of TM1 with a demo, and then we'll finish up with Q&A. Now, I expect that many of you have done some examination of the 3 white papers that were sent out to many people in advance of this webinar, and they really were a prelude to this webinar to help you understand the process and key points of budgeting, planning, and forecasting. We're going to just pull out some of the key items now for background for some of you that may not have been able to go through that, which will help lead into the remainder of the webinar and the discussions. If you don't have these white papers, please do email us at info@clearinsight.ca, and we'll be sure to get those white papers to you. There's a lot of tremendous content in them that can help you in the design and makeup of your own budget and forecasting system. So the first white paper, 7 Symptoms of Forecasting Illness. In that first white paper, it really, in the path to optimal corporate forecasting environment, step 1 is really to closely and honestly examine your current planning process and look for some of these signs of impairment. So each of you on the call are no doubt heavily involved in your own budgeting and planning forecasting solutions and what you're doing right now in whatever method you're using. And so as you consider designing the optimal planning solution, step 1 is really to look for some of these impairments that might be in your existing system. And we won't go through all of them in detail, but first of all, you have semantic disconnects with upper management. And that comes in, you know, my past life, I lived through this many times. And often when you're going to do a budget and a forecast, the business leaders will think, well, what number am I putting into the forecast? A semantic disconnect can be that management may be looking for your best case scenario, but you want to put in the realistic number. And so that's just one example of many things that can cause some problems there. Perhaps in your own environment you have so much pain, I'll call it, that you don't actually do reforecasting. The budget's done, tremendous amount of pain in getting the budget done across the organization. Once it's done, it's kind of banked, put to bed, and then nobody really looks at it again, and you may be missing out on all that forecasting can do for your business. And certainly that, all we're going to talk about today is to address that. maybe in your budgeting process and your forecasting process, it's done at too fine a level, at too detailed a level. Your end users get overloaded and they're not able to spend the time appropriately to put in the right numbers, and they just get overloaded by the detail. Others, we've all seen this, where when they're doing their budgeting, in order to keep things good in the first couple of quarters, they're not going to forecast and budget higher revenues until later, and you end up with hockey stick type budget calls, and we're all familiar with that graph as everything's expected in the last quarter. Independent and overlapping departments. An ineffective process can have multiple departments budgeting revenue and or cost and overlapping each other, so that when the budget is consolidated, you've got duplication of numbers. And then, of course, general inefficiencies in the process that eliminate the opportunity to take time to validate the cycle. So step one, as was in that first white paper, is to identify the current pain in your existing process. Step two, understand that the foundation of an optimal planning system must address and must have some of these key elements in it. Nomenclature, that gets back to what I mentioned earlier about semantics. So for example, when I'm doing and putting in a budget, am I putting in a forecast number or a target number? And they're two very different things. A forecast is what I think is going to happen. A target is what I want to happen. And we'll see as we go through this that if I'm doing a forecast, to make it real, to make it valuable, it has to be what we think is going to happen, not what we hope to happen. Forecasts need to drive decisions. The whole purpose of doing this is that it drives decisions and allows change and action plans in the business, so that ultimately you react to what the forecast is going to be. If that's not done, then your return on investment to the effort of forecasting really is eliminated. Then the last three are dealing with what we will talk about in rolling forecasts. And if your current environment does not allow you to reforecast on a regular basis, then you lose out on the opportunity for making course corrections as you go through the year. You lose out on removing biases, and you miss out on capturing things that might be changing in the immediate future. Step three, the third white paper that you would have read, that's going to take you through ensuring that your platform, your enabling platform for budgeting and forecasting, is designed to address some of the things we've already just talked about. The being able to adapt quickly to changes in the business, being able to roll up and do consolidations is very important, and to have that automatic. Maybe you're living through it right now, and I've lived through it in the past. If you're using Excel as your comprehensive forecasting system, the consolidation and roll-ups in the business for multiple departments can become a nightmare and eliminate the opportunity to even do rolling forecasts. So your system has to be able to handle that. It has to be able to be more effective for you, an integrated system. Not only can it support the planning and getting the numbers into the system, but to be able to support scenarios, so I can build multiple scenarios of what my future might look like. Does the system allow you to do analysis of the numbers, to report on it? Does it allow you to do workflows so that as numbers are brought into the system and move up the echelon chain in the organization, does it support that? And ultimately, does it allow for reporting and analysis of the numbers? If you have to move data from one system to another, you lose inefficiency. And then the last thing, of course, there's others, but the last thing here is that it's collaborative. It is very important that the system allows people from all over the organization who are really those closest to the front line, that it allows them to enter their forecasting and their budget numbers, and that it rolls up from the bottom up and allows top down as well to make changes. So those are really the three key things, that 3 steps out of those 3 white papers that help us to think about budgeting, planning, and forecasting. Now, you will have noted that a key to good planning environment is ongoing rolling forecasts. And now we're just going to take a quick look at this closer. And this first slide tells us kind of why we need to begin to look at rolling forecasts. And we're going to talk about it in a little more detail that can help you see that. What we're talking about is the new normal. And our business life has changed dramatically over the last number of years. And the speed of change continues to increase dramatically. And think about all of this on the backdrop of doing a budget. You put your budget into the system, and that's your call for the coming year and what it's going to be. Things can change so quickly and so often, and that budget can become stale, or more importantly, the drivers that that budget was made on can change significantly even from one month to the next. And so there's a need to address this new changing business environment, particularly the volatility of things in the marketplace. We're all aware of the market going up and down in the bull market and the bear market. And these affect your cost of doing business, your raw materials, your cost of staff and capital. As these change, your budget, if you're just going on your budget, that's not changing. You need to incorporate those into your forecast so that you can make changes to that. The opportunity exists, and we've all seen this in business. We've seen companies that in a bear market, as things go down, a company that can foresee that, make changes in the business, that can be translated into opportunity for them versus those that are not watching the future. So just a couple of items that drive us to being aware of the fact that we need to be reforecasting in our business and not just relying on our budgets. So the role of forecasting then, we talked about semantics. Let's talk about our own semantics here. Let's make sure we're on the same page when we talk about forecasting. What does forecasting mean? Well, forecasting is not about predicting the future. It's about anticipating the future based upon the knowledge and information I have at the time. The knowledge and information I have will change from one month or one quarter to the next, which is why I should be reforecasting from one month or one quarter to the next on how I'm going to meet my budget ultimately. None of us can predict the future, so it's not about predicting the future. It's about having scenarios. It's about having up-to-date plans that help me to adjust to what the future is going to be as I understand it and as my indicators tell me, and it's to make changes in the business so that I can maximize on those opportunities. So what are some characteristics of rolling forecasts? First of all, rolling forecasts have ongoing rolling time horizons. So your horizon that I'm looking forward to, I've got my budget in place, I'm doing forecasts. The important thing is that I'm looking at the near-term future in my forecast to say, what do I believe based upon the information I have? How is my costs or my revenues going to look in the near-term future? And to make adjustments for that so that ultimately I can hit my budget in the end. It may only be, it may be 24 months out, or sorry, it may be 3 months out on what I'm going to call. As well, it's done on a more frequent basis, obviously. Your fiscal end-of-year calendar, that doesn't become a stop and a start for you because business keeps going, and so your forecasts help to manage that. As well, obviously we've talked about this, your budget quickly becomes outdated. Your forecast is all about how am I going to meet the budget as I know things are changing from quarter to quarter or month to month. And then obviously if I'm keeping my forecast up to date, it's going to allow me very quickly or much quicker and more effectively to create my annual budget for the next time. As we look at these proven practices, again, remember that we are talking about forecast, not budget. And again, your budget is what you're going to, is cast in stone and needs to be met or exceeded in a managed way. And the way that we manage that is with forecasts and more effectively with rolling forecasts. Based on those forecasts, followed then by decisions and actions that come out of the forecasts. So the first thing is time horizon and frequency. There's 6 proven practices, and I'm just going to quickly go through these before we turn it over to Charlotte. The time horizon and frequency. How far out is my time horizon? How far out am I going to forecast? And it depends on the volatility of your own business and the marketplace that you're in, but ultimately it's as far near term. Again, it's forecasting the near term future. And so that time horizon that's important in the upcoming forecast may only be 3 months. What's going to happen in the next 3 months, and make adjustments for that, because I don't know what's going to happen 12 months, 24 months out. And then as well, the update frequency is generally going to be linked to your time horizon. So if I can look out 3 months, well, maybe I should be reforecasting on a rolling basis every 2 or 3 months. But again, it depends upon your environment and your business. Accuracy and engagement of forecasts happens when those closest to the business and those directly responsible for the numbers are the ones that make the call. A high participation in forecasts helps distribute the workload of doing the forecast, and ultimately it will free up finance so that you're not doing all the forecasts, you're not doing all the roll-ups. That's happening in a system for you. And so high participation and a system that allows that opens the door for finance to do the analysis. Obviously, if we're dealing with, and we all have in the past, at some point you are now, a cumbersome spreadsheet process, that can directly kill the ability to have high participation and high update frequency. So as these practices come out, you'll soon see that to do rolling forecasts and to have a better budget system, it's all but impossible to do that in an interlinked spreadsheet type world. The forecast models, given the intent of a rolling forecast is to accurately anticipate the immediate future, your templates and models must be simplified. Don't reforecast every SKU. Don't reforecast for 24 months. I may only know 3 months out. Consider drivers such as promotional activity and new stores or new plants that are starting up, and how can those play into models to help you forecast. All these things become efficiencies where technology can help us in that. Risk and uncertainty. We're all aware of risk and uncertainty. Our rolling forecast helps us deal with risk. If I have the right kind of system that allows me to build scenarios, I can create scenarios as I'm building my forecast based upon certain drivers and conditions that may have changed in the business. Different things may have changed since my budget was done. If I have can make scenarios based upon those drivers changing, then I'm going to be more accurate and reduce risk. We're all aware, and it's always a good thing, to create a best, a worst, and a most likely case scenarios to help address risk and uncertainty. And then measurement. Those that have perfected the planning process have done it over time by measuring accuracy, cycle time, and confidence, and making changes for improved effectiveness in your budgeting and forecasting. I wonder how many out there right now, if you actually have done some kind of surveys or measurement to compare 1 year to the next, how accurate your forecasts and your budgets have been. Keeping track of the cycle time, how long and how much effort goes into doing that right now versus in the future, and or with a system that supports that. And then obviously the confidence in the system. The more things that are put in place into your budgeting and forecasting system to help it and enhance it, the greater the confidence senior and executive management are going to have in that. All of these things help remove bias and prevent sandbagging and different issues from going on. So it's important that your forecasting system is measured and compared so that you can continually improve upon that. And lastly, and no doubt perhaps the hardest to address, is culture. It's very key in your forecasting corporate environment and your budgeting environment. You need to ensure that you do not penalize the desired behaviors. For example, in an environment where you're asked to reforecast and I reforecast lower than my budget, if I get penalized for that, then that's not going to create an environment that gets the true market. The whole idea of forecasting, if I think my forecast right now is less than my budget, by effectively communicating that through the system drives action and activity to perhaps add more promotion, perhaps do other things so that I'm going to meet my budget. At the end of the day, what's forecasting all about? Forecasting is all about actively managing the environment so that I meet and or exceed my budget at the end of the year. And it's a management process of helping you achieve your year-end targets. So I'm now going to turn control over to Charlotte Locke from IBM, who will show us how IBM Cognos TM1 really is an ideal enabler to better budgeting and forecasting. So I'm just going to turn this over now to Charlotte. I'm going to make Charlotte a presenter, and I need to turn okay, Charlotte, I just need to give you the audio. 1 minute. Okay, Charlotte, we should be able to hear you now.
Hi, folks. Thank you all for joining today. This is Charlotte Locke. I'm going to speak to you about the revolution in Cognos TM1 for planning, forecasting, and analysis. And I'm hoping I'm going to have the cooperation of my, there we go, system. And what I wanted to do before I actually move into what's new about TM1 and how it can assist in all those wonderful areas that Ian mentioned earlier for planning, forecasting, and rolling forecasting, I wanted to set some groundwork for you about TM1 and what it has always offered. If you just focus for a minute on these boxes down here, the purple boxes, enterprise planning and analysis, TM1 customers have always been structuring and automating their processes for enterprise-level planning and forecasting. And they've been linking the models that they build or their templates together and then automating those plans out. What's really interesting about this is that a dimension, for instance, in expense planning and control can be tied to workforce planning dimensions too. So if you change a value in expense planning and control, it automatically changes in your workforce planning model also, and you see the immediate impact in that. So beyond that, TM1 as a planning solution has also enabled dynamic modeling and planning and forecasting. As Ian said, you really need to be agile, and this solution enables you to do those kinds of activities very quickly and dynamically. You can align your targets for finance and operations in one connected solution. They don't have to be disparate. You have on-demand analytics, some of the fastest in the industry because of in-memory capabilities on the server and even in the desktop version. And you also can address very complex models and large data sets when you do your planning and your forecasting. We provide also through TM1 workflow for planning and forecasting, rapid reporting, Excel sheets. Many people like to work in the Excel environment. We have Excel sheets on the web for those who are comfortable in that environment. There's scalability for the enterprise, and this is a solution that's owned by finance. So finance can be in charge, but then can cooperate with all the business units to roll out the solution. So that's what TM1's been like. And now, today I want to talk to you about the revolution that we've instituted with the newest version of TM1. TM1 has always gotten high marks, as you see here on the slide, for its for results and serviceability. The BARC survey 10, which was the most comprehensive of its kind, conducted an annual comparison of 26 products. And this end-user survey ranked TM1 first in goal achievement and self-service for the planning peer group and the database peer group. And TM1 outranked all the others in suitability. That's the measure of how well a product lives up to its promise. So with this, the new TM1 delivers even greater advancements in the modeling, in the analysis tied to planning, in levels of responsiveness, with a server that is, bar none, the best at its core. So with TM1, we're enhancing the planning with breakthrough analytics and other capabilities so that work groups, departments, the groups that you see in this analytics section, with Cognis Insight, the new desktop capability that I'll explain in a few minutes, they can perform department-specific performance analysis. They can run scenarios, and we talked about how important those were. They can report to their teams, or they can explain their vision with a dashboard. They can even prototype their models, and then they can add these models to the portfolio of enterprise plans. So that's what's important to note. With this version, there's an intersection and a flow of the unique departmental plans with the enterprise plans. So the standard plans that you use can then embed all of your operational plans. And that reduces shadow planning and shadow analytic systems. The new design and deployment capabilities are also part of TM1. So beyond analytics, we're talking about the ability to create your templates. Users can work with a very powerful, expressive business modeling to deeply finance and operations. They can build planning and analytic solutions with guided processes for business logic, for the workflows, and the data models. And you can set the planning processes to your organization's needs. So you can have a central approval input, or you can actually have a hierarchy for approval to drive higher participation. On the high-performance platform, which is the the big workhorse under the TM1 templates, we have increased the engine with predictable performance that's really much more scalable for users and for data. It enables you to manage the planning, the analytics, the modeling, and even that ad hoc reporting capability, and reduce the low-value activities that you have to perform all the time. And it provides a single version of the truth. Let's look first at the component I mentioned, Performance Modeler. This is the new design environment within TM1. It puts the punch into your modeling by simplifying and speeding the design of models and plans, or many of you may call them planning templates. It provides a guided process that includes an import, a design, and an enterprise-scale deployment. Its ease of modeling translates to more business analysts with the ability to model, and that reduces that backup you have of planning templates. You know, you wait sometimes for IT or an organization to create your plan templates. In this case, you're not having to wait. You're creating them on your own, and you're removing that backup. A little bit more about Performance Modeler. The modeling templates, such as expense management or revenue management, are made easy and fluid with guided steps that include defining your dimensions, building your cubes with graphical gestures, defining your rules, that's creating or modifying a calculation, aided with pre-configured calculations or expressions. And I wish I could show you that today, but we can provide you with some demos and some videos so you can understand how that works. You can link the data with an easy graphical interface and import data from multiple sources, mapping it to your model. There's widespread drag and drop. There's a 3-pane application, as you see here, to walk you through your modeling. And the new environment also facilitates rapid movement up from development stage to test stage to your production environments. And I want to mention another thing, too. As you're thinking about building plans, you can also build your forecast models as you would a plan model or template. You can actually leverage the dimensions and the elements from plan templates and roll the forecast templates out for the analysis and reporting. Same environment as the budget or plan. And this scheme of model reuse, this saves you time, it reduces your chances of errors, because the forecasts are often entered at a higher level and for less items than in a budgeting process. Your forecast templates can subscribe to a central dimension hierarchy at a specific level. And in Performance Modeler, you can also use it to implement preferred practices such as the rolling forecast. TM1 supports the rolling forecast very succinctly, very effectively, and analytics can be woven into your rolling forecasting process. There's a very large oil company who actually uses rolling forecasting out for 51 years as prescribed by the government. The Performance Modeler component of TM1 also provides a process for you to deploy your templates out for the enterprise. This helps to increase user participation across your departments and the enterprise. And that means you're encouraging a breadth of analysis and planning and forecasting. And it's increasing user commitment to those achievable goals. So this is a change in your culture. You know, everybody's much more involved. They're really more invested in the process when they can contribute what they believe might be an analytical insight to a plan, when they can contribute a type of plan to add to the corporate portfolio. So with Performance Modeler, you have a guided application deployment that walks the analyst or the planner through choices. You have a choice for workflow or non-workflow. So you can have actually an approval hierarchy, or you can set up something that allows for continuous planning process, like sales forecasts, where sales need to go in and rapidly change their forecasts. So you don't have to have a hierarchical process for that. You can set up client support to be either a web client, a workflow contributor client, which I'll explain later, or Cognis Insight. And you can assign different user rights to these different interfaces. You can also set up different connection modes, either centralized or a distributed mode. And these centralized or distributed have the same capabilities offline as well as on. And then for application deployment, you can move the application to development or production, or out to Cognis Connection or a third-party portal. And I have to take a sip for a second, excuse me. Let's take a look quickly at Cognis Insight. This is the new desktop that I mentioned earlier that enables an array of planning and analysis and reporting. It has a very rich and interactive canvas for analytics. It encourages greater participation, and it helps reduce risk in the management of company performance, because you have top-down and bottom-up input, as I mentioned before, and the rapid development of plan models and ideas and an analysis into the planning process. For analysis, users can prototype situations and plans. They can work with existing or bring in new data. They can perform all sorts of what-if analysis, associative analysis. They can write back. They can customize their views and pull in some explore points, which I'll show you. Within a canvas, they can even add tabs. So they can build different slices of their analysis and push those out to users. As they build their plans, they can create new versions or mini-plan approaches to an existing plan. They can use all kinds of shortcuts in their analysis, multiple views and charts. They can add or create dashboards, and they can add directions in their plans for other planners about examining or using the plan or the finding. Then they can share their discoveries and plans. They can promote them in a tailored dashboard. They can publish their discoveries as reports to TM1 or Cognos BI, and then they can even share their mini application on the web for teams to take action. So you clearly understand the user interfaces. Let me go over them for you right here. Users with TM1 can choose the Excel TM1 Thin Client, which creates Excel-based web sheets that are slices of web sheets They're made available through the web, and they take advantage of Excel functionality. Planners could also use the Cognis Insight desktop, as I just explained to you, for personalized individual analytics, for plan creation, for reporting, and this interface can also be used in the workflow as a managed contributor. The third is a more simple, thin client for managed contribution to plans, budgets, and forecasts. This is a zero footprint interface for managed contribution. For quality, scale, and enterprise performance, the analytics server that is the workhorse within TM1 is even more powerful and highly adapted. It's built on our high-performance stable 9.5.2 server engine. It provides high performance for complex analysis, for models that are complex, for data sets that are complex, such as profitability analysis or M&A or your complex forecasting cycles. It readily imports data from multiple sources with guided and scheduled imports, and we've added tools to actually accelerate these imports in the latest version. And it provides improved performance for remote users. It's at least 20% faster now for planning contributors. In addition, we have enabled first-in-line parallel interaction. And that's a kind of approach that increases user throughput when there are more users accessing the server and doing what-if analysis and read-write on the server. And we've also included a new management console that enables you to look at multiple servers at the same time on a dashboard, gives you more detail into performance and memory metrics on your servers. It helps you detect user contention issues, and it even does a health check on the user interactivity. And now we are going to see a demonstration of Cognis Insight. This is the personal desktop. For ease of analysis and commentary in the planning cycle. And we're embedded in a governed planning process here with the ability to adjust and commit to the plan. So we're going to open this up in a second, and you're going to see the North American Sales Director is being notified to go in to look at his plan. And he's opening the plan up here in Cognis Insight. Remember the interface I just mentioned to you. He's going to be in connected mode to the server when he opens up. And from his workspace, he's going to take ownership of the section that he has to analyze for revenue plan data, specifically plan measures. Here he's observing. Oops, let me go back here for you for a second here. I just want to show you something. Here he's observing that the unit sales price are going to be dropping in Q3, along with the unit costs and the gross margin. And he's going to ask a question about this. He's going to say, why is this drop happening? And he embeds that in his tab. Now he's going to look at price and cost measures on the different products. So we've moved to a new tab over here that's been created, and he's going to look at what's going on with this group of products over here called the alpha group. He wants to understand why there are these drops. And he sees the effect of the price changes by doing a shortcut. So right in the cube, he's going to say, what if I increase it by 20%? Aha, here's what happens to margin, here's what happens to margin percent. And now he's going to try it on alpha gold. Well, he undoes that, and he's going to try alpha gold. What if I try this increase at 15% on alpha gold? Immediately sees the changes for Q3 in margin and margin percent. And he's going to commit that right now with that check mark up there. So he's adding this to the plan. And now one more thing that he wants to do, he wants to look at the consolidated price on the alpha product group. So he's clicking on the consolidated level right here, And he's going to try something affecting the numbers to see what happens if the sales price goes up. And here he immediately sees the margin effect all across the different products, as well as the margin percentage. So he's doing his analysis, he's doing his homework, he's going to commit this scenario because he likes it, and he's going to go block it out as a plan. And this plan that he has just committed as the North American Director is now available for others in the planning process who have the privileges to see this and contribute to it. And they can look at the commentary, they can look at what he determined is going to happen with those two different tabs I showed you. They can explore that. And so you see here a blend of not only the planning process, but the analysis deeply embedded in it, where our North American manager was able to bring in different analysis points and look at things very rapidly and get immediate dynamic answers, responsive to his changes. And this is all within that governed planning process. Okay, so now we are going to go back to our presentation. And I want to just mention a couple words about beyond the basic planning analysis and forecasting. When TM1 is paired with IBM Cognis Business Intelligence version 10, you can address a breadth of reporting and scorecarding needs. Cognis BI 10 is an open enterprise class platform with an array of BA offerings integrated on it. It offers complete BI capabilities, query, reporting, analysis, dashboarding, scorecarding, historical information, real-time information, and predictive analysis. So this is going to help you reduce your risk, too, as Ian mentioned earlier. Progressive, seamless interaction, from reading your content to modifying it to authoring a report without IT intervention. Again, more dynamics in your planning process. And then there's built-in collaboration and social networking to help you quickly establish decision networks so you can share more insights. And last, risk analysis. IBM Cognos' Open Pages GRC is a software solution that allows your organization to manage your enterprise operational risk and compliance initiatives with a single integrated solution. So I just want to recap what IBM Cognis TM1 brings to the table in enterprise planning and forecasting today. With it, you can gain time for improvements in the user experience, much faster personal analytics, decision-making, planning, greater collaboration, that thing that Ian talked about, so important to involve and change your culture with deeper analysis and participation. Greater control, enhancements to your modeling, your data management, to build your templates much faster, greater visibility for you into your performance management, to your profitability. And you know what? You're eliminating the delays that are coming at you from the market, right? You have to respond to emerging changes, to realities. And this enables you to create these templates, to design them, to modify them, to roll them out immediately, report on them. There's really no limit to how quickly you can move things through the system. And then you gain confidence because we've added so much more monitoring to the server, to the robustness of the server. You've reduced the cost of ownership. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. And I think Ian, you're going to take control again.
Wonderful, Charlotte. Thank you very much for that. And I really appreciate you taking us through TM1 and the insights around TM1 and really Cognis Insight as well, how it can help us with the rolling forecasts and all that we have been talking about earlier. So just our timing is right on, and so just one more slide on my side before we go to Q&A. And really it's just to highlight for you again, from our perspective from Clear Insight, really we do have a discovery and roadmap service that we're able to help organizations who are perhaps struggling with the budgeting and planning and forecasting. Perhaps you're in the Excel budgeting mode, or maybe you're using some other system that's you're having some challenges with, or just looking to look for some insight on how to enhance your existing system, that we are able to come in and we're able to help do a detailed assessment of your existing solutions, help you with roadmaps of your solutions, implementation and consulting, and then, of course, design and architecture of enhancements or change to new system, transfer of knowledge and training. We invest quite a bit of time in making sure that our clients understand the systems themselves and are able to continue to manage the system as they go forward, even though we're there for support as needed. But it's our objective to try and help clients be self-sufficient as well as they go forward. So just a reminder about that, and we're happy to speak to any of you as down the road as time requires for that. So now we'll just open it up maybe if there's been some who have entered comments into the chat for questions. If you have any questions or anything that you'd like to bring forward. Now I'm just going to turn it over to Susan, who has, I think, been able to look at what questions have come forward. And if there's any questions, Susan, I'll let you let us know what they are. You'll just need to, you maybe are muted on your side, Susan.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Great. Okay, so the first question I think would be directed towards Charlotte. How does TM1 support end-user access and effective engagement from employees in regional offices and locations around the world?
TM1 can be used in a distributed mode. So that you can set up distributed servers and enable the input from the different participants at those levels. And then there are roll-ups for the inputs to that server, to the main servers and the main plans. So there can be all kinds of levels of overnight activity, different perhaps timelines that you want to work with your group on the local plans, and these can be rolled into TM1, and the server capabilities enable that consolidation, either on an ad hoc basis or a managed automated flow of the updates.
Thank you, Charlotte. This one would be directed for Ian. What process does Clear Insight follow to transition a client from a legacy spreadsheet planning environment to TM1?
Okay. Well, as we work with clients, interesting enough, we kind of laid out a bit of our process for you in the introductory part of this webinar, and really we actually follow the three-step process that we had laid out earlier, where we will work with your business and technical leaders to design and architect that new environment to ensure, as per the 3 points, that we first address, understand what your existing pain points are, then we look for how we can design a new system to address those pain points so that we can deliver an environment that can effectively allow rolling forecasts. The other thing that we do as we look to transition a client and help a client is we're believers very much in the measurement process, and so we will, before there's any change to the system, we'll work with your leaders and those involved, perhaps do a survey and get a benchmark and a baseline of the satisfaction around the accuracy, the cycle time, and the confidence of your existing process. And then as we roll out the new system, we continue that measurement process to make sure we're always increasing and improving the environment for everybody. So hopefully that answers the question.
I think so. Thank you, Ian. And another one for Charlotte. Should I consider Cognis Insight to be my de facto end-user tool for budgeting and forecasting as well as reporting? Why or why not?
That's a great question, and much of it may be determined by the privileges and the capabilities that you want to extend out to your working teams. Cognis Insight certainly has, the full kind of gamut of capabilities for that dynamic analysis for the prototyping that you may want to engender to enable a lot more collaboration and insight, up from the ranks into what's happening with your corporate plans. Someone, for instance, in the sales organization or in HR or operations may have some insights that someone else, in the corporate planning office, doesn't necessarily have a handle on yet. And these can be shared very rapidly through Cognis Insight, with that dashboard capability and building some of those dashboards and sending them out for everybody to look at with commentary. That's a key thing. And so I think that from that respect, Cognis Insight is a wonderful enabler to really fire up the planning process and make it more robust and dynamic. Then again, there are many people who like to work with the right on the server. They like to use the Excel type interface, and the TM1 web sheets capability really speaks to that. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have a governed planning process, but that's where you already have independence among your users, and they're all kind of ingrained in how well the process works. And then there is that contribution where you have massive numbers of folks who have to contribute to the plan process. Certainly the TM1 contributor interface really works best for or helps that situation where there are thousands perhaps of planners because of the ability to really govern that process. We have so many people contributing to slices of plans, and the consolidation then is automated that way. So it does depend, but you can also have a blend of these users in your planning environment. So once you determine what your needs are, it's a good idea then to stimulate what your end user contribution is going to be.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Charlotte. Ian, I think we're running out of time, so I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, well, thanks for that. Thanks to each of you for sending in some of your questions. We are right on time. I'm showing just a couple of minutes, a minute or two before the top of the hour. So we appreciate each one who has been able to join our webinar today. We do have it recorded, so that can be accessible on request to folks, as well as, of course, if you have not received those 3 white papers we talked about originally, please email us at info@clearinsight.ca, and we'll be sure to get those to you. And also, if you would like to follow up with us directly about anything, please do email there, and we'll look forward to connecting with you. So thank you again for your time, and we will close off the webinar now.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.